Hi, this is Steve with Roadrunner Air Conditioning, Heating, and Plumbing in Santa Fe, New Mexico. In today's episode of Fun with Load Calcs, I'd like to focus in on a Santa Fe home, specifically to find out how we can use load calculations to decide which home efficiency improvements have the biggest impact on the heating and cooling loads. So we're going to look at a home that was built in 1961 in Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's a stick-built home with 2x4 construction, flat roof, stucco walls. Some windows have been improved, others are original. Now, in the load calculation reports that we provide you, there is a listing of components of the home and the percentage and loads associated with each of those components. The walls, the windows, the floors, and so on. So we are going to look at each of those parts of the house for this client who's trying to decide which improvements are most cost effective and give the biggest impacts on the heating and cooling loads in his home. The first thing we need to talk about, though, is the Santa Fe climate conditions that the load calculation is going to use. In Santa Fe, the outside dry bulb temperature that we use in the parameters is 10 degrees Fahrenheit for winter and 90 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer. These two design temperatures represent the 1 percentile and the 99th percentile of the potential temperature hours that this house will face in a particular year. It is based on 30 years of climate data, 24 hours a day times 365 days in a year. Every one of those hours has a temperature assigned to it. So the 10 degrees number is the 1 percentile number of the heating temperatures in Santa Fe, saying that fewer than 1% of temperature hours are typically lower than 10 degrees. And then on the upper end, 90 degrees, fewer than 1% of the temperature hours are hotter than 90 degrees. So we have captured 98% of the temperature hours that this home will face, and that's where these load calcs are based on. So this is the layout of the home. It's sort of a square-shaped layout, built in 1961, around 1,450 square feet. The roof currently has an R value of 19. The wall values have an R value of R11. The exterior wall is stucco with no exterior foam. So let's take a look at the potential energy savings from each of 5 different scenarios that this client could use to improve the energy efficiency of his home. The baseline load calculation shows a heating load of around 35,000 BTUs per hour and a cooling load of around 14.3 thousand BTUs per hour. The first scenario this client is considering is to put a home wrap all the way around underneath his stucco and then put new stucco on. A home wrap, as you may know, an example product is Tyvek, is often used in homes to provide air sealing against infiltration or leakiness in a home. So in this particular example, if we assume that new Tyvek home wrap is put around this home, the heating load drops by about 7% and the cooling load drops by about 6%. So scenario number 2 that this client is considering is exterior foam of 1 inch thick, R5 value. So when he puts on the Tyvek or new stucco, he would put on a rigid foam outside around the home. This is another typical energy efficiency improvement that can be used to provide a thermal bridge against heat coming from the house through the 2x4 studs and leaking into the outside via thermal bridging. So with an exterior foam thickness of 1 inch, the improvement is around 5% on the heating and 11% on the cooling. The third option for this client is slab insulation. Currently, this is a concrete slab with no insulation because it was built in 1961. If we assume that 2 inches of rigid foam is put around the edge of that slab. And this is an R value of 10. The amount of improvement is actually shocking. It is a 24% improvement on the heating loads. It actually lowers the heating BTU requirement from around 35,000 BTUs to around 26,000 BTUs. 24% improvement on heating loads and a 5% improvement on cooling loads. So that is the biggest improvement so far out of these three. The fourth scenario is roof foam to put on top of the R11 flat roof. And this insulation could be a rigid foam board, let's say, 4 inches thick, R20, or spray foam, could be 4 inches thick with the same R value. That provides an improvement of 5% in the winter and 10% in the summer. And then the final improvement this client is considering is improving one window that is the bedroom window that still is the original 1961 single pane metal frame window. The rest of the windows in this home have already been improved in the last 5 years to double pane low E glass. So improving that one window in the bedroom would actually lower the heating load by 3% and improve the cooling load by 15%. So what we learn from this is, in Santa Fe, with the climate we have in northern New Mexico, a big impact on winter heating loads is improved with a slab insulation. And on the summertime loads, putting a single new window into the bedroom improves the heat gain during the summer in this particular house. So I found that very interesting, that a 15% improvement in the overall cooling loads of this home just from improving one window in the bedroom. So keep that in mind. Winter loads improved with slab insulation. Summer loads improved with windows. Thanks for listening.